Okay, so we all have brains and we all use those brains to have many thoughts and different ideas and all sorts of amazing things. But sometimes some of these thoughts are intrusive thoughts, anxious thoughts, and they can be very, very, very annoying. And they can just flood our brain, take it over, and it can be very alarming to us. And I've found that what you have to do is literally like unplug those thoughts. You have to unplug the power, take the power away from them, and just unplug them, and you'll just notice a difference. Now, obviously, I have a little technique here that I've done, and it does help. Obviously, you should do this after you've seeked, actual, professional help. But imagine that the thought's in your hand. You've taken it out of your head. Now this thought is in your hand. And you're talking to this thought. You're basically kind of telling it what for. You're telling it, hey, you're just a thought. You don't control me. You don't run my life. And I'm not going to let you, rule me. You're kind of putting it in its place in a way. And now I'm not a doctor. I don't have a PhD or anything. This is just something that I've done and it's worked and I've seen great results and I want to share it with you. And these thoughts, yes, they can be very annoying, but when you take them out, kind of tell them what for in a sense, and then toss them away, toss them in the trash, leave them there. Yeah, they're going to try to come back, but you just use the same method. And it'll change your perspective on them. Instead of being ruled by them, you'll see them for what they are, just intrusive, annoying thought, and they won't rule you. Okay, so I'm going to be trying a new segment here. I was thinking we could call it like Wildlife Wonders, although I don't know if I really like that name. So if you guys can think of a name for a segment about like animal facts, let me know because I'm open to suggestions. But here's an interesting animal fact. So the question is, are elephants afraid of mice? Now, I did some research, and basically what I found was no, but they can be spooked by them. So basically, they aren't afraid of mice, but I guess they can have like elephants can sometimes have like poor eyesight or something. So if there's like any little thing like a snake or a mouse kind of being really fast on the ground, it can like spook them, startle them, which really kind of seems like that would happen to any animal, not just elephants. But what was really interesting about this was that the whole idea of elephants being afraid of mice, it actually goes back very far. One thing said, like, even as far as like 600 years ago, but then there was another thing that said several sources say even the ancient Greeks, and they would tell stories of like how the mice would like crawl up the elephant's trunk and like drive them crazy and stuff like that. So very interesting. So no, elephants are not afraid of mice, but I just thought it was more interesting actually how far back this whole idea went, because I thought it's just like within the last 100 or 50 years, but apparently it goes back pretty far. So all in all, very interesting fact. When you're struggling with things like anger, doubts, questions, especially when they're about God, the last person you want to approach or talk to about those things is God. Especially if you're, doubting or questioning his existence or his love or his character, or if you're just angry at him. And honestly, I mean, yeah, it kind of makes sense. Like, why would you go to the person that you're angry at? But God is the very first one you should go to when you have doubts, when you have questions, and when you're angry, even if they're directed towards him. And he welcomes you. You don't have to clean yourself up. You don't have to figure things out. You don't have to, have yourself like all in your best dressed clothing and everything before you approach him. Go to him as you are, with all the anger, all the doubts, all the questions. Just go to him. Be honest with him and listen and keep going to him, and he will answer. Now, it's not going to be an immediate answer, but he will answer. I mean, it might be immediate. I shouldn't say that. Sometimes he does, answer immediately, but, the point is he will answer. And just keep going to him. But don't let your doubts, questions, anger, don't let those things keep you from God. He welcomes you, and he will be right there listening. And that's what he wants. He wants you to approach him. This actually goes along with what I just said about how God welcomes you, but it's about prayer, which is a very interesting thing because there are tons, probably millions of books about prayer, sermons about prayer, people talking about prayer, like all this information about prayer. There are like prayer groups and classes, seminars. And yet what's interesting, with all this information about prayer, nobody really seems to know how to pray or how they are to pray, or they still have all these questions about prayer. So it's really not that complicated. I think it's very simple. Prayer is you just being honest with God, just approaching God and just being honest with Him, recognizing Him for who He is. Doesn't have to be fancy. You don't have to have all of these, fancy sayings or words or, repetitive phrases. You're just approaching Him. You're continuing to go to Him and being honest, pouring your heart out, just talking and listening. And honestly, I've had prayers sometimes when I pray, they're only like 5 seconds long, 10 seconds, a minute. Sometimes it's really long. But it's not about the length of time. It's just about you approaching God, being honest and being authentic. That's what He wants. He doesn't want all this religious, say these right words, or, repeat this, or repeat that, or do all this. He wants authenticity from us. So if you're having trouble praying, start with just 10-second prayers, just little prayers, and just be authentic and keep going to God. Just continue and being faithful in prayer, and just keep going to God. And, you'll see the fruits from it. And as you do it, prayer will get easier and easier. And you'll start to it'll almost become it'll be like a habit. It'll just become kind of automatic. It'll be a lot easier for you to do it. And honestly, it's really not that complicated. Just continue to go to God in prayer. If you have never had cats or dogs, you've probably heard that they're very different. You've probably heard a lot of people comparing them. I'm going to give you a very quick summary on the differences between cats and dogs. It's their wills. See, dogs have a very flexible will. You can train them a lot easier. You can, they still want to do things. They still can be willful and persistent in wanting to do things their way. But, they're going to be more flexible to, listen to you. Like, you're their owner. They're going to be more like, hey, what do you want to do? Cats, not so much. You can work with cats. You can train them. But a cat is going to be much more like, look, this is what I'm doing. If you want to join me, you can. But this is what I'm doing, and I'm going to do it. So that's pretty much the difference. And, yeah, you could probably say something deep there about, which one are we like? What kind of will do we have? But this is just a fun little thing about cats and dogs. That's mainly the difference, is their wills. Dogs are more flexible. Cats, not so much. So I have this painting behind me, and it's a painting that I started literally months ago, and I've never finished. And I want to finish it because I have all these other art ideas, and I feel very overwhelmed because I always get all these art ideas, but I never really have time I feel like by the time I finish one, it's like takes so long, or I never really have time to really just get through a lot of them. And, I don't want to do art all the time. I mean, I enjoy making things, but it's not like something I want to do, 24/7. And so there just always feels like there's a lot of pressure. Like, oh, I got to finish this painting, I got to do this. That it becomes more of a chore instead of something that I just enjoy. And that leads me to all the stuff about, creating stuff, if you're posting it online or business, whatever. There's so much pressure. So many people telling you gotta post this often, you gotta do that, you have to talk about this topic, you have to do this trendy thing, you have to, put out a video like every day. And it's like, and no wonder people get burnt out, because who can do that? Who can honestly create and come up with ideas every single day, like for an entire year or years, decades, and not be burned out? It's just it's way too much. So here's the bottom line: don't be pressured to create. Creating things and being creative and making art is very, very fun. It's very fun to, whether it's videos, music, it could be woodworking, it's painting, whatever. It's very fun to create. A lot of people enjoy it. Pretty much everyone creates in some way. They make something in some way. But don't be pressured to do it. If you want to share it online, just share it as often as you can. And, the millions, billions of people use the internet every day. They're going to find you. You don't have to worry about posting this often or doing this special thing. Just relax and enjoy it, and just let God deal with it. Let God bring the people, and just if you don't feel like creating, or if you want to take a break, fine, don't be pressured to create, just, make art because you love it, not because you're pressured to do so. That's basically it. For as often as I read the Bible and study it, one thing I'm terrible at is taking notes during Bible study, because I never know what to write down. I literally never know what to make notes on. When you're just reading through a passage of scripture, what are you supposed to write down? Are you supposed to write down what you've learned from it, verses you like? Are you supposed to highlight things you want to look up? I never really know what to, take notes on. So I've never really been good at it. I've tried it. I've had notebooks. It mainly just ended up just me writing down verses I liked, which then I kind of was like, well, what's really the point of that? Because they're already in the Bible. It's just never been something I could figure out. The other thing I never liked was really highlighting and highlighting actually in the Bible. Like, people do like these Bible journals, and I find them interesting, but I've never been the type to really just want to write and do all that stuff in the Bible. I think because I like the Bible to kind of remain just kind of clean, the pages. So, like, for example, I have a Bible that I got a few years ago, and it's an ESV Reader's Bible. It's the one that doesn't have the verse numbers. And I've never highlighted in it, and I don't want to, because I want it to remain all clean and nice, nice looking, which I know is not important, but that's just, it's just not something that I do. So anyway, I have this metal NLT Bible that I got years ago. It's like a little pocket one, and years ago I had taken notes in it. I had done highlighting and stuff. So recently I thought, well, I'm going to try again. And I started using a pencil. And I love it because it's like the pencil, you can see the pencil marks, you can see where the notes are clearly, but it's also subtle enough because it's graphite, so it's like gray and it's kind of see-through. It's subtle enough that it doesn't take away from scripture. So you're not like opening the Bible and seeing all these colors and all these notes. It's just, you're just seeing the scriptures, and then you just see some like pencil marks and stuff. So if you're struggling with note taking, there's some advice. Use a pencil. It's cheap. You can use colored pencils if you want some color, but it's a really good option, and it might help you with your own Bible note taking.